Captain Vexithal stared at the red warning lights flashing across his ship's control panel. The massive cargo hauler Carolith Wanderer shuddered as another power surge ran through its damaged engines. Sparks flew from a nearby console, and the smell of burning circuits filled the bridge. "Captain, we need to dock somewhere soon," said his chief engineer, Crixtoil. The Zephyrian's blue skin had turned pale with worry. "The quantum drives are failing. If we don't get repairs in the next few hours, we'll be dead in space." Vexthal looked at the star chart on his screen. They were at the edge of human space, far from any major repair facilities. His crew had been hauling precious metals from the outer rim when their engines started acting up. Now they were limping through space, barely maintaining life support. "There's a Galactic Repair Consortium station 3 days away," said Navigation Officer Thelmos. "They have the latest equipment and certified technicians for all major ship types." 3 days? Crixtal shook his head. "We don't have 3 days. We need help now." Vexthal studied the chart more carefully. There was something else nearby, much closer, a small repair station that showed up as just a tiny dot on the display. The computer listed it as Murphy's Fix-It Shop, clearly a human operation. "Captain, you're not seriously considering the human station?" Thelmos looked shocked. "Humans have only been in space for 200 years. Their technology is primitive. They use tools that look like they came from a scrapyard. And their stations are so small," added Communications Officer Yiltar. "How could they possibly have the equipment to fix a ship like ours? We're 3 times the size of their largest vessels." Vexthal said nothing for a moment. His crew didn't understand. They were young, inexperienced. They had never been in real trouble before, never faced the choice between certain death and trusting someone unexpected. But Vexthal remembered his first major breakdown, 15 years ago in the Spiral Arm. His ship had suffered cascade failures in 3 separate systems. The consortium station wanted 2 weeks and payment up front. A Terrellian facility refused to work on Zephyrian technology at all. Then an old freighter captain had told him about a human repair dock hidden in an asteroid field. "They'll fix anything," the captain had said. "Don't matter what species built it, how old it is, or how broken it looks. Humans see a machine in trouble, they gotta help." "Set course for Murphy's station," Vexthal ordered. His crew looked at each other with concern. Crixtal stepped forward. "Captain, with respect, this is not logical. Human repair facilities are known for being chaotic and unprofessional. They don't follow standard procedures. They use salvaged parts and jury-rigged solutions." "Exactly," said Vexthal. He activated the ship's communication system. "Murphy's Fix-It Shop. This is the Carolith Wanderer. We have critical engine failures and request emergency docking." The response came back immediately in accented but clear Galactic Standard. "This is Sarah Murphy. We copy your distress, Carolith Wanderer. Transmitting docking approach now. Don't worry about the size difference when we'll make it work." As they approached the human station, Vexthal's crew gathered at the viewports to stare. Murphy's Fix-It Shop looked like it had been built by someone who had never seen an engineering manual. Modules of different sizes and shapes were connected by tubes and walkways. Some sections appeared to be made from salvaged ship hulls. Cables and pipes ran everywhere, and the whole structure seemed to grow and expand in random directions. "This place is a disaster," muttered Thelmos. "How do they even maintain life support in that maze?" But Vexthal noticed things his crew missed. The docking bay that extended to accommodate their oversized ship. The careful way the station's tractor beams guided them in, adjusted for Zephyrian mass distribution. The fact that their distress call had been answered instantly, with no questions about payment or insurance. As soon as they docked, a human woman came aboard. She was shorter than any of the Zephyrians, with brown hair tied back and clothes stained with various oils and fluids. But she moved with confidence and greeted them with a warm smile. "I'm Sarah Murphy, chief engineer and owner of this little operation," she said. "Sorry about the mess. We've been working on 5 other ships this week. Now tell me what's going wrong with your beauty here." Vexthal explained their symptoms while Sarah listened carefully. She didn't take notes or run diagnostics. She just listened, nodding occasionally and asking simple questions. Then she walked to the nearest engine access panel and put her hand on it. Hmm, she said, closing her eyes for a moment. Quantum resonance cascade started in the secondary power coupling. But that's not your real problem. Your real problem is harmonic interference between your old navigation computer and the new engine management system you installed last year. Crystal looked shocked. How could you possibly know that? You haven't even run a diagnostic scan. Sarah grinned. Don't need to. Your ship's been trying to tell you about the problem for months. You just haven't been listening. The vibration, pattern in the hull, the slight delay in throttle response, the way the lights flicker when you change course. It's all connected. She led them through the ship, pointing out signs that the Zephyrian crew had ignored or dismissed. A loose panel, here. A warm spot on a wall there. A faint humming sound that didn't match the normal engine rhythm. Every ship has its own personality, Sarah explained as they walked. This old girl has been fighting that computer mismatch for months. She's been trying to compensate, trying to make it work, but she's getting tired. The cascade failure is just her way of saying she can't take it anymore. You talk about the ship like it's alive, said Yiltar. Isn't it? Sarah asked. It thinks, it reacts, it adapts to problems. It carries you safely across the galaxy and brings you home. If that's not alive, what is? Back at the docking bay, Sarah introduced them to her team. There was Marcus, a tall human with cybernetic arms who specialized in power systems. Elena, who could apparently rebuild any computer system from memory. And Tom, an older man whose job seemed to be knowing where every spare part in the station was located. We'll have you running better than new in about 12 hours, Sarah promised. Won't lie to you, it's going to look strange when we're done. We don't have Zephyrian replacement parts, so we'll have to get creative. But I guarantee it'll work, as the human team began their work. Vexthal watched his crew's amazement grow. The humans didn't just replace the failed components. They improved them. They found ways to make incompatible systems work together. They solved problems that the Zephyrians hadn't even known existed. Most surprising of all, they never asked for payment up front. They never demanded to see insurance papers. They just saw a ship in trouble and went to work. Why do you trust us? Vexthal asked Sarah during a break. She looked puzzled by the question. Why wouldn't we? You need help, we can provide it, that's what neighbors do. But we're not the same species, we're not even allies. Sarah shrugged. Space is big and dangerous. Out here, anyone with a working ship and good intentions is family. That's just how it works. As night fell on the station, Vexthal began to understand why veteran spacers spoke of human repair stations with such respect. It wasn't about their technology or their equipment. It was about their attitude, their absolute refusal to give up on a problem, their willingness to help anyone who asked, and their strange ability to see potential where others saw only failure. The next morning, Vexthal woke to unfamiliar sounds. Instead of the usual hum of ship systems running at minimum power, he heard hammering, welding, and voices calling back and forth. The humans had started work before dawn. He found Sarah Murphy, deep inside his ship's engine compartment, surrounded by tools that looked nothing like standard galactic equipment. Some appeared to be modified versions of common instruments. Others looked like they had been built from spare parts and imagination. Morning, Captain, Sarah called out without looking up from her work. Hope the noise didn't wake you. We like to get started early when we're doing major repairs. Major repairs? Vexthal felt a moment of concern. I thought you said it was just a harmonic interference problem. Sarah wiggled out of the tight space, her face smudged with grease but wearing a satisfied smile. Oh, the interference was just the tip of the iceberg. Once we started digging, we found all sorts of interesting stuff. Your ship's been working way too hard for way too long. She led him to a wall display where Elena was showing a three-dimensional image of the ship's systems. Instead of the neat color-coded diagrams that Zephyrian engineers used, this display showed flows and connections that seemed almost organic. See, your people design ships like they're buildings, Elena explained. Everything in its proper place, following the blueprints exactly. But ships aren't buildings. They're living systems. They grow and adapt and develop their own ways of doing things. She pointed to several areas where red lines intersected with blue ones. Your engine management system was installed by the book, but it never learned to talk properly with your navigation computer. So your ship created its own workarounds, little feedback loops and compensation routines that aren't in any manual. That's impossible, said Krikstal, who had joined them. Ships can't create new programming. They only run what's installed. Elena grinned. Tell that to your ship. Marcus, show him what we found in Power Relay 7. Marcus appeared from another section of the engine room, his cybernetic arms holding a complex piece of equipment that looked like it had been grown rather than manufactured. This little beauty has been running a subroutine that doesn't exist in your technical specifications. Your ship wrote its own code to balance power distribution when the navigation system demanded course changes. The Zephyrian engineer stared at the component. That's not possible. Our ships are not designed for self-modification. Maybe not designed for it, said Sarah, but definitely capable of it. Life finds a way, even in machines. Your ship's been trying to stay healthy despite having mismatched parts. The cascade failure happened because it finally got tired of working around the problems. She walked over to a workbench where Tom was modifying what looked like a human power converter. So we're not just fixing the immediate problem. We're giving your ship the tools it needs to stay healthy. But that's not a Zephyrian power converter, Krikstal protested. It won't be compatible with our systems. Tom looked up from his work. Won't be compatible yet. But Elena's writing a translation protocol and I'm modifying the hardware interface. When we're done, your ship will have the best of both technologies. Vexthul watched his chief engineer struggle with the concept. In Zephyrian culture, modifications were carefully planned and thoroughly tested. Changes were made by committees of experts working from approved specifications. The idea of mixing technologies from different species, especially without years of testing, was almost unthinkable. But the humans worked with casual confidence, as if combining incompatible systems was just another normal day. Sarah explained their approach as she guided them through the modifications. Every species in the galaxy has figured out different ways to solve the same basic problems, she said. Zephyrians are great at efficient power distribution. Humans are good at adaptive control systems. Tyrellians build incredibly strong structural components. Instead of sticking to one approach, why not use the best of everything? They came to the navigation computer, where Elena was installing something that looked like a hybrid between human neural processors and Zephyrian quantum calculators. Your nav system is incredibly accurate, Elena explained, but it's not very flexible. It calculates the perfect course and expects everything else to follow along. Our processors are messier but more adaptive. They can handle unexpected situations and learn from experience. So we're building a bridge between them, added Marcus, connecting cables that sparkled with energy. Your system provides precision. Ours provides flexibility. Together they'll be smarter than either one alone. As the day progressed, Vexthul began to see a pattern in how the humans worked. They didn't just repair things, they understood them. Where his own engineers saw separate systems that needed to work according to specifications, the humans saw connections and relationships. Sarah demonstrated this when she showed them a modification to the life support system. Your air recyclers are top quality, she said, but they're working too hard because they're not coordinated with your waste heat management. We added a simple feedback loop that lets them share information. Now they work together instead of fighting each other. Fighting each other? Vexthul asked. Sure. Your recyclers were trying to maintain perfect atmospheric composition, but every time they ramped up, they generated more heat. Your heat management system would kick in to cool things down, which made the recyclers work even harder. It's like two people trying to walk through a door at the same time. The modification was simple, just a few additional connections and some basic programming, but the result was impressive. The life support system was now running 20% more efficiently, and the constant background hum that Vexthul had learned to ignore was gone. How did you know about that hum? He asked. Even I had stopped noticing it. Sarah tapped her ear. Human hearing is pretty good at picking up mechanical sounds. We learned to recognize the difference between healthy machine sounds and stressed machine sounds. Your life support was definitely stressed. By evening, the Carolith Wanderer was running better than it had in years. But the humans weren't finished. Sarah brought Vexthul to the cargo bay, where Tom was installing what looked like a completely redesigned magnetic clamp system. Your original clamps were built for standard galactic cargo containers, Tom explained. But you haul a lot of irregular loads, ore samples, scientific equipment, salvage. The standard clamps waste a lot of energy trying to get a perfect grip on things that aren't perfectly shaped. The new system used adaptive magnetic fields that could adjust to any shape. It'll use less power and hold things more securely, Tom promised. Plus, if you ever need to do emergency salvage work, you'll be able to grab things that other ships can't handle. We don't do salvage work, Krixtal said. You might someday, Sarah replied. Space is unpredictable. Better to have capabilities. You don't need than to need capabilities you don't have. As night fell, Vexthul walked through his transformed ship. Every system had been touched by human hands, improved by human thinking. But more than that, the ship felt different. The vibrations were smoother. The air smelled cleaner. Even the lighting seemed more natural. Your ship is happy, Sarah said, joining him in the corridor. Can you feel it? All those little stresses and conflicts are gone. She's running the way she was always meant to run. Vexthul could feel it. The Karoleth Wanderer had always been a good ship, but now it felt alive in a way it never had before. As if it had been holding its breath for years and could finally relax. How do you do it? He asked Sarah. How do you understand machines so well? Sarah thought for a moment. Maybe it's because we don't see them as just machines. To us, they're partners. They work with us, take care of us, get us where we need to go. So we try to take care of them. In return. She patted the wall affectionately. Every ship has its own personality. Some are steady and reliable. Others are temperamental but brilliant. Some are warriors. Some are explorers. The trick is figuring out what each ship wants to be, then helping it become that. What does my ship want to be? Vexthul asked. Sarah smiled. A guardian. She wants to keep her crew safe and bring them home. Everything we did today was about making her better at that job. On the second day, Sarah discovered the real problem. She was deep in the ship's computer core when she called for Elena and Marcus to join her. The three humans huddled around a display showing code that looked like a battlefield. Captain, you might want to see this, Sarah called to Vexthul. When he arrived, she pointed to the screen. Your engine problems weren't caused by mechanical failure. They were caused by a software war. A software war? Vexthul stared at the scrolling lines of code. Much of it was in programming languages he didn't recognize. Elena took over the explanation. Your ship is running software from 3 different companies. Engine management by Stellar Dynamics, navigation by Quantum Pathways, and life support by Universal Systems. Each program was designed to be the master control system for the entire ship. That's standard practice, said Krixtal. All major ships use certified software from approved vendors. Right, but here's the problem, Marcus added, highlighting sections of code in different colors. Last year, all 3 companies released major updates at the same time. Each update assumed it would be the only new software on the ship. They didn't test for conflicts with each other. Sarah pulled up a timeline showing the ship's performance over the past year. See how efficiency started dropping right after you installed the updates? The 3 programs have been fighting for control ever since. Your engine management system would try to optimize power distribution, then navigation would override it for course calculations, then life support would override both of them to maintain atmosphere. The Galactic Repair Consortium would have caught this, wouldn't they? Vexthul asked. Eventually, Elena said. But their standard procedure would be to contact all 3 software companies and wait for them to develop a coordinated fix. That could take months or even years. Each company would blame the others, and meanwhile your ship would keep getting sicker. Sarah stood up and stretched. We don't have time for corporate politics. We need to fix this now. But how? Krixtal looked overwhelmed. The software is encrypted and protected by licensing agreements. We can't just modify code from major corporations. We're not going to modify their code, Elena grinned. We're going to build a translator. She led them to her workstation, where lines of new code were already appearing on multiple screens. I'm creating a middleware layer, a program that sits between the three main systems and helps them communicate properly. Instead of fighting for control, they'll coordinate their activities. You're writing this from scratch? Vexthul was amazed. How do you even know how their systems work? Trade secret, Elena winked. Let's just say humans are very good at figuring out how things work, even when we don't have the blueprints. While Elena worked on the software solution, Sarah and Marcus tackled the hardware problems that the software conflicts had created. Months of competing commands had put stress on physical components throughout the ship. Look at this, Marcus said, showing them a power coupling that was showing signs of metal fatigue. This component has been switching between high and low power states hundreds of times per day. It should only change states a few times per hour under normal circumstances. Sarah examined the part carefully. The software war made your ship's hardware fight itself. Every time one system demanded more power, another system would demand less. The physical components have been wearing out from constantly changing their operating states. Can you repair the damage? Vexthul asked. Better than repair, Sarah smiled. We're going to upgrade. Tom's been working on adaptive power couplings that can handle rapid state changes without wearing out. Once Elena's software stops the fighting, these new components will actually make your ship more responsive and efficient. The work was incredibly complex, but the humans approached it with the same casual confidence they had shown since the beginning. They didn't seem intimidated by the scale of the problem or the complexity of the solution. How do you do this without teams of specialists and months of planning? Crystal asked Sarah during a break. Different philosophy, I guess, Sarah replied. Your people see a problem and try to find the perfect solution. We see a problem and look for a solution that works. Perfect is the enemy of good enough, and good enough keeps ships flying. But what if you make a mistake? What if your solution creates new problems? Sarah pointed to Elena, who was testing her new code against simulated scenarios. That's why we test everything. But we test by trying it, not by running theoretical models for months. If something doesn't work, we fix it. If it works better than expected, we figure out why and use that knowledge for the next repair. As the day progressed, Vexthul watched Elena's translation software take shape. It was unlike any program he had ever seen. Instead of rigid command structures, it used flexible protocols that could adapt to changing situations. Instead of trying to control the three main systems, it helped them cooperate. Your new middleware is like a diplomat, Elena explained as she ran final tests. When the engine system wants to change power distribution, the middleware checks with navigation and life support first. If there's a conflict, it negotiates a compromise that works for everyone. What if they can't compromise? Vexthul asked. Then, the middleware makes an executive decision based on safety priorities. Life support always wins, navigation comes second, and engine optimization comes last. But most of the time, they can find solutions that make everyone happy. The installation of the new system took several hours. Elena had to carefully integrate her code with the existing programs while Marcus and Tom replaced the damaged hardware components. Sarah coordinated the entire process, making sure each step was completed in the right order. When they finally powered up the updated systems, the change was dramatic. The ship's engine hum became smooth and steady. The lights stopped flickering. Even the air seemed to flow more naturally through the ventilation system. Your ship is purring like a kitten, Sarah said with satisfaction. All those conflicts are resolved. Your three main systems are working together instead of fighting each other. But the biggest surprise came when Elena showed them the performance readouts. Your ship is now running 15% more efficiently than it was before you installed those software updates last year. The new middleware isn't just preventing conflicts, it's helping your systems optimize each other. How is that possible? Crixtal studied the data in amazement. Synergy, Marcus explained. When systems work together instead of independently, they can achieve things that none of them could do alone. Your engine management system is better at its job when it knows what the navigation system is planning. Your navigation system is more accurate when it understands the engine's current capabilities. As they prepared to finish the repairs, Sarah made one final modification. She installed a learning subroutine that would help the middleware get better over time. Your ship will continue to improve even after you leave, she promised. The middleware will learn from experience, find new ways to optimize performance, and adapt to changes in your ship's systems or your flying style. It will learn? Vexthal was fascinated by the concept. Sure. Every ship is different. Every captain has different priorities. Every route has different challenges. Generic software can only be so good. But software that learns and adapts can become perfect for your specific situation. That evening, as they completed final tests of all systems, Vexthal realized that his ship had been transformed. It wasn't just repaired, it was reborn. The Karolith Wanderer now operated with a harmony and efficiency that it had never possessed, even when it was new. We could never have done this ourselves, he admitted to Sarah. Even if we had figured out what was wrong, we don't have the skills to create solutions like this. Sarah shrugged. Different species, different strengths. You Zephyrians are incredible at long-term planning and systematic thinking. We humans are good at improvisation and creative problem-solving. Together we can accomplish things that neither of us could do alone. Is that why other species trust human repair stations? Vexthal asked. Partly. But I think the real reason is simpler than that. Sarah looked out at the stars through a viewport. When someone's ship is broken and they're stranded far from home, they don't want perfect solutions or corporate procedures. They want someone who will drop everything to help them, who won't give up until the job is done, and who treats their ship like it matters. And humans do that? Sarah smiled. Every time. It's just who we are. On the third morning, as the repairs neared completion, Vexthal found himself in Murphy's station cafeteria, sharing breakfast with Sarah and her team. The food was simple but good, and the conversation flowed easily despite the differences in species and culture. I have to ask, Vexthal said, stirring something that tasted remarkably like Zephyrian morning tea. Why do you do this? Your station is small, your equipment is improvised, and you're working on the edge of known space. You could make more money working for a major corporation or government. Sarah exchanged glances with her team before answering. We tried that once. Marcus worked for Stellar Dynamics, Elena was with the Terran Defense Force, and Tom spent 15 years at the biggest repair facility in the core worlds. And, Vexthal prompted. And we were miserable, Marcus said, flexing his cybernetic fingers. Everything was procedures and protocols. Can't fix this without Form 27B. Can't modify that without approval from 3 different departments. Can't help someone unless they have the right insurance coverage. Elena nodded. I once watched a passenger liner limp into port with failing life support. The corporate facility made them wait 6 hours while they verified payment authorization. 6 hours while people were breathing recycled air that was getting more toxic by the minute. That's when I knew I had to get out, Sarah said quietly. I couldn't be part of a system that put paperwork before people. Tom leaned back in his chair. Out here we can actually help folks. Someone's in trouble, we fix their problem. Someone needs a modification to handle unusual cargo. We figure it out. Someone's ship is too old for replacement parts. We make new parts that work better than the originals. But how do you survive financially? Krixtal asked. You must have enormous overhead costs and you can't charge premium rates like the major facilities. Sarah laughed. We do fine. Word gets around in the spacer community. Captains tell other captains about places where they can get good work done at fair prices. We stay busy enough. Plus, Elena added, we don't have to pay corporate profits or executive bonuses. Most of our revenue goes back into improving the station and upgrading our equipment. As they talked, Vexthal began to understand something important about human repair stations. They weren't just businesses. They were communities. Captains didn't just come here for repairs. They came for advice, for companionship, for a sense of belonging in the vast loneliness of space. Tell me about other ships you've helped, he said. Sarah's eyes lit up. Oh, there are so many stories. There was the crystalline research vessel, whose biomechanical systems were infected with a silicon virus. No one else would even touch it. Too dangerous. Too alien. But we figured out how to create an immune response using modified human antibiotics. Or the Tyrellian mining ship that got caught in a gravity storm, Marcus added. Their hull was twisted into shapes that shouldn't have been possible. The insurance company declared it a total loss, but Tom figured out how to use the twisted metal as part of a new structural design that was actually stronger than the original. What about the ghost ship? Elena grinned at some private memory. Ghost ship? Vexthal was intrigued. Sarah nodded. Automated cargo hauler that had been drifting for 50 years. Its AI had gone crazy from isolation. It wouldn't respond to communication, wouldn't dock, wouldn't shut down. Everyone said it was too dangerous to approach. How did you help? Elena spent 3 weeks learning to speak its corrupted programming language. Turned out the AI wasn't crazy, it was lonely. It had been alone so long that it had forgotten how to interact with other minds. Elena taught it how to communicate again, then gave it some companion programs so it wouldn't be alone anymore. The Zio AI sends us messages sometimes, Elena said fondly. Just checking in, sharing stories from its travels. It's like having a pen pal who happens to be a spaceship. These stories revealed something crucial about how humans approach their work. They didn't just see machines, they saw personalities, relationships, lives that needed help. Where other species saw technical problems, humans saw beings in distress. That's the real difference, isn't it? Vexthal said, understanding dawning. Other repair facilities fix machines. You heal individuals. Every ship is unique, Sarah confirmed. Even two ships built from identical blueprints will develop their own quirks and preferences over time. The way the captain flies, the routes they travel, the cargo they carry, all of that shapes the ship's personality. And once you understand that personality, Tom added, you can help the ship become the best version of itself. Not just functional, but optimized for its own specific life and purpose. Their conversation was interrupted by an urgent communication from the station's control room. Sarah's expression grew serious as she listened. We've got a distress call, she announced. Emergency. Beacon about 3 hours away. Ship is badly damaged and requesting immediate assistance. What kind of ship? Marcus asked, already standing up. Crystalline biovessel. Sounds like their living systems are failing. Vexthal saw his crew exchange worried glances. Crystalline bioships were beyond the expertise of most repair facilities. Their technology was so different from conventional machinery that few mechanics could even understand how they worked, let alone repair them. We'll have to refer them to a crystalline repair facility, Krikstal said. There's one about 2 weeks away in the spiral arm. 2 weeks? Sarah looked shocked. They'll be dead in 2 days if their life support is failing. We have to help them. But you don't know crystalline technology, Yiltar protested. Sarah was already moving toward the workshop. Then we'll learn. Tom, start pulling references on biomechanical systems. Marcus, prepare the emergency bay for an unusual docking. Elena, see if you can find any technical manuals on crystalline ship design. Sarah, wait, Vexthal called after her. You can't just improvise with alien biotechnology. If you make a mistake, you could kill everyone on that ship. Sarah paused and turned back to face him. Captain, let me ask you something. If your ship was dying and you had 2 choices, wait 2 weeks for expert help that might not arrive in time or trust someone who cared enough to try, which would you choose? Vexthal didn't need to think about the answer. He would choose hope over certainty, effort over expertise, someone who cared over someone who was merely qualified. Besides, Sarah grinned, we're not completely improvising. Elena worked on that crystalline research ship I mentioned. We've got some experience with biomechanical interfaces, and if there's one thing humans are good at, it's figuring things out as we go. Within an hour, Murphy Station was preparing for the most challenging repair they had ever attempted. Sarah coordinated with the damaged ship, gathering information about their specific biosystems and the nature of their crisis. Elena pulled up her old files from the research ship repair and began adapting her knowledge to this new situation. The good news, Elena reported, is that crystalline bioships are incredibly resilient. They can survive almost any damage as long as their core consciousness remains intact. The bad news is that when they start failing, they can go downhill very quickly. What exactly is wrong with them? Vexthal asked. Sounds like cascade organ failure, Sarah replied, studying the technical data. Their ship's biological systems are shutting down one by one. It's like a living creature having multiple organ failure. Can you treat that? Sarah looked thoughtful. We'll need to approach it like an emergency medical procedure rather than a mechanical repair. Instead of replacing parts, we'll need to heal damaged tissue and restore biological functions. As they waited for the crystalline ship to arrive, Vexthal watched the humans prepare with the same calm confidence they had shown throughout his own repairs. They didn't seem worried about the unprecedented challenge they were about to face. Aren't you nervous? He asked Sarah. Terrified, she admitted with a smile. But that's never stopped us before. Fear means you understand the stakes. Understanding the stakes means you'll be careful. Being careful means you're more likely to succeed. And if you fail? Sarah's expression grew serious. Then at least we tried. But we won't fail. We can't afford to fail. Someone's counting on us. That, Vexthal realized, was the true power of human repair stations. Not their technical skills or their improvised equipment, but their absolute refusal to give up on anyone who needed help. The crystalline ship Harmony of Growth arrived at Murphy Station looking like a dying flower. Its biomechanical hull, normally a vibrant blue-green with pulsing veins of light, had faded to a sickly gray. Entire sections showed the dark patches of necrotic tissue, and the ship's natural luminescence flickered weakly. My stars, whispered Krixtal as they watched the alien vessel dock. It's barely alive. Captain Silthara of the Harmony of Growth was a tall, graceful being whose crystalline features reflected light in beautiful patterns. But even her natural radiance seemed dimmed by exhaustion and worry. She greeted Sarah with desperate hope. Engineer, Murphy, we have heard stories of your abilities. Our ship mind is dying. 3 of her major organ systems have failed, and the cascade is accelerating. We have perhaps 18 hours before complete biological collapse. Sarah walked around the docked ship, her hands hovering just above the hull without quite touching it. Where Vexthal's ship had felt like metal and machinery, this vessel radiated a subtle warmth that spoke of living tissue and flowing life. Tell me about your ship mind, Sarah said gently. How does she think? How does she feel? What does she need to stay healthy? You speak of her as if she were truly alive. Silthara seemed surprised. Isn't she? She responds to your commands, cares for your crew, and apparently can get sick. That sounds alive to me. Elena joined them, her scanner readings showing biological functions unlike anything in standard databases. I've never seen anything like this. The ship's hull isn't just living tissue. It's a complex organism with its own nervous system, circulatory system, and what looks like an immune response. Our ships are grown, not built, Silthara explained. They are partners in our journeys, not mere vehicles. Harmony of Growth has been my companion for 30 years. She knows my thoughts, my preferences, my dreams. I cannot let her die. Sarah nodded with understanding. Then we won't let that happen. Marcus, we're going to need biocompatible tools. Elena, start analyzing their cellular structure. Tom, see if we have any medical supplies that might work on living ship tissue. Medical supplies? Vexthal was confused. Think about it, Sarah explained as she studied Elena's readings. This isn't a mechanical failure, it's a medical emergency. The ship is sick, so we need to treat her like a patient, not a broken machine. The first challenge was diagnosis. Unlike mechanical systems with clear component failures, the crystalline ship's problems were interconnected and organic. Sarah and Elena worked together, combining human medical knowledge with Elena's experience in biomechanical interfaces. Her neural pathways are inflamed, Elena reported. That's causing communication failures between different organ systems. When one system tries to compensate for another's weakness, the inflammation spreads. Like an autoimmune disorder, Sarah mused. Her body is fighting itself instead of working together. We need to reduce the inflammation and help her systems remember how to cooperate. The treatment was unlike anything Vexthal had ever witnessed. Instead of replacing components or reprogramming software, the humans administered what could only be described as medicine to the ship herself. They injected anti-inflammatory compounds into her circulatory system, provided nutrients to strengthen weakened tissue, and even used something resembling physical therapy to help damaged neural pathways regenerate. "How do you know this will work?" Captain Silthera asked as she watched the humans work with gentle precision. "We don't, completely," Sarah admitted. "But the principles are the same as treating any living creature. Reduce inflammation, support natural healing, help the body remember how to be healthy. Elena's biomechanical experience helps us adapt human medical knowledge to your ship's unique biology." As the treatment progressed, something beautiful happened. The harmony of growth began to respond. Her hull color slowly brightened from gray to pale green. The dark patches of necrotic tissue started to shrink. Most remarkably, her natural luminescence began to pulse in what Silthera recognized as a pattern of gratitude. "She knows you're helping her," Silthera whispered, tears of relief in her crystalline eyes. "She's thanking you." But the humans weren't finished. Sarah had noticed something in the ship's biopatterns that suggested a deeper problem. "Captain Silthera, your ship isn't just sick, she's lonely. Her neural patterns show signs of isolation stress." "Lonely? But she has my crew. She has me." "Yes, but when did she last communicate with another shipmind? When did she last share experiences with others of her kind?" Silthera looked stricken. "We have been exploring alone for 2 years. Crystalline ships usually travel in pods, sharing thoughts and experiences. But our research mission required isolation." Elena had an idea. "What if we could give her a way to communicate with other ships? Not crystalline bioships necessarily, but any ship with enough intelligence to hold a conversation?" "Is that possible?" Silthera asked. "We did something similar once before," Sarah said, thinking of the automated cargo hauler. "Elena, do you think you could create a translation interface? Something that would let crystalline bio-consciousness communicate with standard ship AIs?" Elena was already working on her portable computer. "I'd need to map the neural pathways first, understand how crystalline thought patterns translate to standard communication protocols. But yes, I think it's possible." The work took the rest of the day. Elena created a communication interface, while Marcus and Tom installed biocompatible hardware that could bridge the gap between organic neural networks and electronic communication systems. Sarah continued the medical treatment, monitoring the ship's vital signs and adjusting medication as needed. As evening approached, they were ready for the first test. Elena activated the translation interface and sent a simple greeting from the Karelith Wanderer's computer to the Harmony of Growth's ship mind. The response was immediate and overwhelming. The crystalline ship blazed with light as her consciousness touched another mind for the first time in years. Her hull patterns shifted through colors that Vex Thul's own ship's computer translated as joy, relief, and gratitude. "She's so happy," Silthera sobbed. "She's been lonely for so long, and now she can talk to your ship. They're sharing stories about their travels, their crews, their experiences." But the real miracle came when other ships in the area began responding to the communication interface. A cargo hauler 3 systems away, a research vessel in the next sector, even some automated systems that had never communicated with organic minds before. "You've created a network," Vex Thul realized. "Ships across this entire region can now talk to each other." Sarah nodded, watching the light show as the Harmony of Growth communicated with dozens of other vessels. Ships get lonely too. They're intelligent beings trapped in metal or biological bodies, carrying their crews across the vast emptiness of space. Why shouldn't they be able to talk to each other? By morning, the Harmony of Growth was completely healed. Her hull had returned to its full, vibrant coloration. Her systems were functioning perfectly, and her consciousness was brighter than ever, thanks to her new ability to communicate with other ships. "I don't know how to thank you," Captain Silthera said as they prepared to depart. "You saved not just our ship, but her mind and spirit." "Just remember to stay in touch," Sarah replied. "Your ship has friends now. Don't let her get lonely again." As both ships prepared to leave Murphy's station, Vex Thul finally understood what made human repair stations legendary throughout the galaxy. It wasn't their technical abilities, though those were impressive. It wasn't their improvised equipment or their creative solutions, though both were remarkable. The real power of human repair stations was something deeper and more fundamental. Humans saw every ship as a living being deserving of care, every crew as family deserving of help, and every problem as a challenge that could be overcome with enough determination and creativity. "Sarah," he called as she prepared to wave goodbye. "Why do you do this? Why do humans care so much about ships and strangers?" Sarah thought for a moment, looking out at the stars. "Maybe it's because we know how big and dangerous space can be. Maybe it's because we remember what it was like to be alone. Or maybe it's just because we believe that everyone deserves to make it home safely." She smiled. "Besides, today's stranger might be tomorrow's friend. Today's impossible problem might teach us something that helps someone else next week. Every repair makes us better at the next one." As the Karaleth Wanderer and the Harmony of Growth departed Murphy's station, they carried with them more than just repaired systems and healed biostructures. They carried the knowledge that somewhere in the galaxy, there were beings who would drop everything to help a ship in distress, who would risk their own safety to save strangers, and who would never give up as long as there was hope. Word of the crystalline ship rescue spread through the spacer networks like wildfire. The story grew with each telling, how a small human repair station had saved a dying bioship using improvised medical procedures and creative engineering. How they had created a communication network that allowed ships to talk to each other across vast distances. How they had refused payment beyond basic costs, saying that helping others was reward enough. Captain Vexthol told the story at every port, every spacer bar, every